Valaquenta. Account of the Valar and Maiar according to the lore of the Eldar. This little section is just a short recap of what we just read in the previous chapter. There's a new word you're going to hear a lot in this title, Eldar. Now that's just the word for elves. It means people of the stars. Of the Valar, there are 7 lords and 7 queens, or Valir, of the Valar. And remember how Ainu is the singular term for Ainur? Well, Vala is the singular form of Valar. Ainu, Ainur, Vala, Valar. Got it? Good. So let's look at the names of all of our lords and queens of the Valar. We have Manwe, Varda, Ulmo, Yavanna, Aulë, Nienna, Orome, Este, Mandos, Vaire, Lorien, Vana, Dulkas, and Nessa. It says that Melkor is counted no longer among the Valar because he's so bad, right? Manwe is dearest to Ilúvatar and understands most clearly his purposes. Think of Manwe as the leader of the Valar. He's kind of like the mouthpiece of Ilúvatar. He's the one who understands his mind, so he's going to be the one through whom Ilúvatar communicates to everyone else in Arda. And Manwe, as we know, is the lord of the breath of Arda, of air, wind, clouds, breezes, and he loves birds. So actually, whenever eagles show up in any of the stories, that's because Manwe sent them. They're kind of like his servants. And Varda dwells with Manwe. She's known as the Lady of the Stars, and it's said that the light of Ilúvatar is in her face. So she's so beautiful, you just can't describe how beautiful she is. And she knows all of Ea. She knows every physical part of the physical universe, which makes sense because she's the one who put the stars all throughout the universe. She's the one who created the stars, so she had to go to all corners of the universe. Melkor, she knew from before the making of the music and rejected him, and he hated her and feared her more than all others whom Eru had made. I like that. Right off the bat, she knew he was bad news. She didn't trust him one bit. Of all the great ones who dwell in this world, the elves hold Varda most in reverence and in love. Elbereth, they name her, and they call upon her name out of the shadows of Middle-earth, and uplift it in song at the rising of the stars. Manwe and Varda complement each other very well. When they're together, Manwe can see farther than anyone, all the way to the edge of the world. And she can hear anyone cry out to her throughout Arda. She can hear much better when she's with Manwe. So Manwe and Varda, they both live in a place called Valinor. Valinor is the dwelling of the Valar in Arda. It's kind of like Mount Olympus from Greek mythology. It's where all the gods live. Don't worry about the details too much of where it is located, like on a map. We're going to get into that in much more detail in the next chapter. So sit tight with that. But just so you know, Valinor, that's where the Valar live. Ulmo is the Lord of the Waters. He doesn't really like to take a physical body, and he doesn't hang out with the other Valar. He really only goes to Valinor for important meetings, but that's because his waters stretch all over the place. They cover much of the surface of Arda, so, that makes sense that he doesn't really need one base to live at. He lives everywhere, and because of this, he thinks the most about Arda, and he cares about the children of Ilúvatar the most, and he actually sends them visions. We're going to see some of his vision action in later chapters. Ulmo does not have a spouse, and Aulë is the lord of the substances of which Arda is made: dirt, rocks, metal, minerals, etc. And he's a great craftsman, and Melkor is very jealous of him. He always destroys Aulë's work, and Aulë is just so weary of that. His spouse is Yavanna, the giver of fruits. She's the goddess of all things that grow in the earth. So that would make sense that they're married. God of the earth, goddess of plants and everything. That makes sense. Then we have the Feanturi brothers. They're known as the Masters of Spirits, and they're called Mandos and Lorien. But don't let these names mislead you. They're technically the names of the places where they live. So Mandos, his real name is Namo, and he's the keeper of the houses where the souls of the dead go to await their fate. He does not forget anything that happens in history, so he remembers the entire vision that Ilúvatar showed the Ainur before the universe was made. None of the other Valar have as good of a memory as he does. So because of that, he's known as the Doomsman of the Valar. He makes prophecies, with the permission of Ilúvatar. His wife is Vaire the Weaver. She weaves all of history into tapestries, and these great long tapestries, of course, grow every year, and they adorn the halls of Mandos. And now the second brother, Lorien, his real name is Irmo, and he's the master of visions and dreams, and he lives in a great, vast, beautiful garden called Lorien, and his wife is Este, healer of hurts and weariness. So their garden, Lorien, is a place of rest, even for the Valar. So think of like the most amazing spa that you've ever been to or that you could ever imagine. At a lake, and that's the garden of Lorien. Now, Nienna, she lives alone. She has no spouse, and she is the sister of the Feanturi. She is acquainted with grief and mourns for every wound that Arda has suffered in the marring of Melkor. But she does not weep for herself, and those who hearken to her learn pity and endurance and hope. And all those who wait in Mandos cry to her, for she brings strength to the spirit and turns sorrow to wisdom. Then we have Tulkas. He's the strongest of the Valar. He loves wrestling, he's the fastest runner, he's got a big booming laugh, and he's always happy, even in battle, like nothing phases him. He's the one who came last to Arda, basically just to help fight Melkor. And his wife is Nessa, and she loves deer, she loves running with them, and she also loves dancing. So if she's not running with deer, she'll be dancing. That's basically all she does. Orome, he is the brother of Nessa, and he is a great hunter. And though less strong than Tulkas, he is more dreadful in anger. So he's a little more threatening, a little darker of a character among the Valar. But he liked Middle-earth more than Valinor because he can hunt monsters in Middle-earth. Remember, Middle-earth is shrouded in darkness, and Melkor has all of his monsters running around, and it's just a lot of fun there to go and, kill demons and stuff. His wife is Vanna the Ever-Young, and she is the younger sister of Yavanna. Yavanna, Vanna, okay. She kind of reminds me of Persephone from Greek mythology because she brings flowers to life like in springtime, and flowers pop up wherever she goes. So that's very nice. So of these 14 Valar and Valier, Tolkien says 9 are the most powerful. But because Melkor is lame, remember, we just count 8 as the mightiest. So in order of mightiest, we have Manwe, Varda, Ulmo, Aulë, Yavanna, Mandos, Nienna, and Orome. So these guys are the most majestic beings that Ilúvatar has ever created. Of the Maiar are just less powerful Ainur. The Valar are the Ainur who are bosses, and the Maiar are the Ainur who are kind of like their employees. You can think of it that way. Most of them are not named, and we can't see most of them because the majority of them do not take physical form. And a note on grammar, remember how the singular, plural, Ainu, Ainur, Vala, Valar, well, Maya is the singular form of Maiar. And another small side note, we first see the word Aman here in this section. Just keep in mind that's the name of the continent where the region of Valinor is located. Again, don't worry right now too much about getting the geography straight, because we'll go into that in much greater detail in the next chapter. I've got tons of pictures for you. Don't worry about it. Sit tight. So of the Maiar who actually are named, we have Ilmare, the handmaid of Varda, Eonwe, the herald of Manwe, Osse, master of the seas that wash the shores of Middle-earth. So he's kind of like the spirit of the waves. He can be violent and stormy and unpredictable. But Uinen, his wife, can calm the seas. I like that. It's kind of cool. A little balance there. And one time, Melkor tried to get Osse to come over to the dark side because Melkor hated the sea, because he couldn't control it. But Uinen put a stop to that immediately, brought Osse before Ulmo, and Ulmo pardoned him. And Osse has been loyal ever since. He cannot be turned ever again. He was tempted once, but now everything is fine. Then we have Melian, and she served both Vanna and Este, and she lived in the gardens of Lorien. Melian is going to be a pretty big character later on in the story, so remember her name. And then we have Olorin, who was the wisest of the Maiar, and he also lived in Lorien, but he visited Nienna often. And of her he learned pity and patience. In later days he was the friend of all the children of Ilúvatar, and took pity on their sorrows, and those who listened to him awoke from despair, and put away the imaginations of darkness. That sounds like a very familiar character we know from the books that we've already read. Well, spoiler alert, it's Gandalf. Yeah, Gandalf is one of the Maiar. Who knew? There you go. Of the enemies. So, a little note on Melkor. From splendor he fell through arrogance to contempt for all things save himself. A spirit wasteful and pitiless. He became a liar without shame. Again, this is so satanic, father of lies. The imagery is very rich there. And in this section, we see some new names. We see Noldor. We see Morgoth. Morgoth just means the dark enemy of the world. We're going to see that name again and again, referred to Melkor later on. And Noldor, that's just a certain race of elves. We're definitely going to see more of them. That's a big push in the story, in the narrative. There were lots of Maiar that served Melkor. The most terrifying of them were the Valaraukar, the Balrogs, the demons of terror. Remember that guy from the Fellowship of the Ring movie that Gandalf battled with in the Mines of Moria? So that was a Balrog. Well, he wasn't even the worst. Remember what I told you before? Everything in the Silmarillion is bigger and badder. Yeah, so that guy was small potatoes, if you can believe it. And Sauron was a Maya, and he was Melkor's right-hand man. And actually, he used to work for Aulë. So Sauron actually used to be a smith in Aule's shop, smithy, or whatever. And the book says he was only less evil than Melkor because he served someone else rather than himself. So he was just a servant of Melkor. That just made him a little less evil. Melkor was the worst because he was the ultimate spirit of selfishness.